Hey, welcome to another episode of Inquiring Minds. I'm Steve Harper, and with me, as always, is my amazing co-host, Donna Carlin. Donna, how are you today?
I'm really good. I am so excited about this topic because I really think it'll resonate with everyone.
Excellent. What are we talking about?
So it started off with a quote by Warren Berger. Questioning is the ability to organize our thinking around what we don't know.
Hmm.
Now, in our profession, where questions are like gold,
Yeah.
um, that is so true because when you ask a question that a person needs to think about, reflect on all that, they're organizing around, well, what are the gaps? What don't I know that I need to pay attention to? All of that. Even the stuff that they know, we're asking them to look through a different lens.
Yep.
So, he talks about questions often bring up more questions, like that's for sure, rather than answers. And I always say, could you live in the questions, right? But the status quo changes with every answer we get. It just broadens things. It doesn't mean the questions are redundant or don't have to be asked. It means we have a broader foundation to build on just so we could discover more. Living from a place of curiosity, not knowing. So, what's really cool is I ask at the end of the day, in addition to, what did you learn today? What are the questions that I asked today?
Yeah.
And of myself and of others, right? And so I wanted to start off the conversation with another quote. I used to watch NCIS New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
I think I told you I was actually in one of those shows by accident, walking in front of the courthouse I was filmed. And when I was in New Orleans for TED, and he always says to his team, learn something, not discover something or find the bad guy, learn something. And I always loved that because that's what I would say to myself at the start of the day. Learn something. Yesterday, I started a mentorship with a new mentee, and she said that she wants to know how I got to where I got to. And I said, I ask the question every day, what am I learning? If I don't learn from my clients anymore, that's when I need to step down.
Yeah.
So what questions did you ask yourself so far today?
That's a great question. The what can I learn? I'm putting together a little program for an upcoming course that I'm going to be doing, and it was pretty paramount about how I focus on connecting with people and what sort of my superpower is relative to that. And so it's really apropos that we're talking about this because on my little notes, which are actually to the side here, what can I learn from this individual, right? What can I learn from these people that I deem as important connections? And so this little segment that I'm doing is about how to separate yourself from the people that no longer serve you respectfully, but do it in a way where you're opening up space for other people to come into your world, right? To add to your personal and your professional network. And when we stop having that sense of curiosity and we stop asking ourselves, what else can I learn? What else can I discover about people? It's maybe a time to put that relationship or that connection on hiatus. Or I tie this back into how these people make me feel, or how they come across when we engage. Are they inspiring? Are they motivating? Are they people that make me feel good about myself or feel good about our interaction? Or are they people that maybe spend more time talking about themselves, or they're more committed to putting their ego front and center? And that falls in the, hey, doesn't make me feel great category. And so those are indicators that it's time to maybe do something different. And so it's the question that you look at, and I think any one of us could do this, right? And when you go through all of the connections you have on all these various platforms, LinkedIn or Facebook, or any of the places that you keep these connections, we have this tendency to bring so many people in because it's so easy to do, but very few of us are willing to put in the work necessary to really understand who that person is, discover their greatness, and find an avenue to build and develop that relationship with them. And almost all of those interactions come down to a perspective of what questions are you asking about that person? What questions are you asking yourself that I still need to learn? Or At what level do I need to engage next? How can I add value to them? And so it's funny that we're talking about this because it's all rooted in the sense of questions. And so, especially this morning, as I was kind of taping something for this, playing around more or less just to see if this idea that I want to show really comes across on video. The more I looked at it, the more I realized, that it really does really come from that sense of curiosity, and your curiosity is only spurred by the questions that you're asking, yourself and other people.
And it's coming up more and more. I was talking to somebody in this company I'm working with in Chicago yesterday, and one of the questions was, this person pushes my buttons. I feel, anxiety well up, or anger, or
Triggered. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
ticked off them,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And like, how do I deal with that? Because we talk about the CVI
Yeah.
assessment, and well, if your primary quadrant isn't working, get into your secondary, which is a totally different approach. That's why you do these kinds of assessments, and well, the CVI anyway. And he said, I have to remember to do that. I said, no, all you need to remember is approaching things through curiosity, not judgment.
Yeah.
He just stopped and he said, like, what do you mean? Give me an example. I said, if somebody's making a determination or a judgment and you're going, they're wrong, I'm right. The minute you're saying that in your head, you've made a judgment and they're going to be judged on everything subsequent to that. If you approach things through curiosity, through what you don't know, and give them the benefit of the doubt and wonder,
Mm-hmm.
do they know something I don't know?
Yeah. What information do they have that I don't know? Yeah.
So I said, there's two ways to approach this. One is, do you have any information I might not have, which is telling you to make this determination? Please help me understand. Take me through this. And then just be quiet and listen. Where's the anger and the judgment there? He says, it's nowhere.
Yep.
So I said, exactly right.
It's an invitation to have a dialogue about it, as opposed to saying, "Oh, no, you're wrong, Donna. That's
right.
not how we do it." Yeah.
And we talked, last week about confidence. There's no competition. There's also curiosity. When you go with curiosity, and you don't have to be right, but you have to be present.
Yep.
There's a difference. You're still approaching the situation through confidence that you will learn something that you didn't know before and can integrate it and make your platform bigger. Right? You're not a dummy if you ask a question. You're interested.
Yep.
There's such a difference. And you connect with people when you're interested in what they know, who they are, why they approach things the way they do, and seek to understand. You're creating connection.
You are, and it changes everything. So someone maybe that you haven't gotten along with for a long time because of the way they act, or they've maybe treated you in the past, when you approach it from this different perspective and you come at it with a sense of curiosity and you leverage that, approach with the question, you actually are reshaping how they view you as well. Like, you are intentional, you're committed, you're curious, and you're not putting up this as a roadblock or in defiance, but out of genuine interest about how they arrived at the decision that they did. I think it's so valuable, and we're just we're accustomed to being so knee-jerk reactionary in these situations, rather than stopping and actually asking ourselves before we even open our mouths, where am I coming from? Where is my perspective? Like you said with the CVI, for those that don't know that's the core value index, right? And you've got a primary and a secondary. Asking yourself that question, am I coming at it from my primary? Or if that's not working for me, what could my secondary bring to this? Those types of things become such a valuable tool and resource for you, not only to understand how you're going out there into the world and how the world might either welcome you or not, in terms of your attitude, your leadership style, your direction, your approach. But really, at the end of the day, it also gives you an opportunity to check in where you're at and to reset in your own mind why you need to come at this with a sense of curiosity as opposed to adversarial or argumentative kind of approach, which I think becomes that knee jerk reaction for a lot of people, especially, going back to our last episode, when they lack confidence, that's when the conflict tends to come up, because
That's right.
they don't necessarily, how should I say this? They don't have all the facts, but they want to act like they do, and that becomes an opportunity for real conflict between individuals, teams, etc. So I think it's really good to remind yourself to check in with yourself in these circumstances and see where you're coming from.
Oh, definitely. And to be open enough to listen to where people believe you're coming from.
Yep.
That's the second thing. Validate how they're viewing you, and invite them to let you give contribution,
Yep.
not through judgment, through curiosity. The what if questions. What if we were able to do it this way? What would the two of us be doing in order to make that happen? And just percolate.
Yeah.
Just percolate. Listen, build, bring in, your expertise, let them do the same, and see what you co-create together. It's
Yep.
such an energizing thing to do. It's extraordinary.
It is. And, like we touched on, when you do it this way, you can completely change perspectives, right? Your
That's
own, other people's, which we've all had those individuals in our lives, professionally or personally, that we didn't maybe think were our cup of tea initially, or people we don't know why we didn't like them, but we didn't like them to start with. But then something changes, and almost always involves an opportunity to have a little deeper insight as to who that person is, getting a better idea of their perspective, taking the time to not cloud your judgment with a particular filter, but allowing yourself to come into the situation or into the conversation with your eyes wide open. And all of a sudden, oh, this person I didn't like, all of a sudden is somebody I really respect. I want to go have lunch with them. I want to learn more. And it's funny we're talking about this, because I was thinking about a situation just like this with someone that has now been a friend of mine for 16 years. But I met him, and I did not like him. I couldn't really quite place why, but he seemed like a very opinionated, pompous individual. And what I recognized, actually, when I took the time to really kind of read through, kind of read the room a little bit more, that a lot of times when he would say things, it was because he was really he felt like he was uncomfortable with silence. He was uncomfortable with not being the class clown, and contributing in some way. And much of what he does is he puts people on edge a little bit to get a dialogue stimulated. Sometimes his approach is welcomed, and sometimes it's not. But once I understood it and kind of saw it for and I have to believe, even in those moments way back when, I'd ask myself the question, before you just automatically jump to judgment. What is he trying to accomplish? What is his agenda? What is the approach, and how does he think that's serving him right now? And when you recognized in the moment where he just wanted to have something to say, just to be a willing contributor, it took one moment for me to say, Earl, that's a really good point. I did not thought about that. And it completely changed it. He got me at the end of this little meeting, took me by the elbow and said, I appreciate you, kind of saying something. And I never know how what I say is interpreted. And sometimes I just come across as a smartass, and like, oh yeah, you definitely do that. But you get people thinking, I think. And next thing you know, it was, well, let's go have coffee, and then let's have lunch. And, 15, 16 years later, we're friends. And he'll call you, and he'll start to annoy you because that's his button to kind of push with something. And that's how he responds to the world, just to say, hey, I'm here. But I recognized, in just thinking about this, about him just, literally within the last day or so, how many people have missed the joy of getting to know him as an individual, because he's
Yeah.
so amazing.
Wow.
So, I think going back to that earlier point, I think it gives you an opportunity to really look at things from a different perspective, and an opportunity for you to see somebody in a different light, but also yourself in a different light, when you're willing to, have that sense of curiosity and hold yourself in the moment to, hold yourself responsible to ask the questions that need to be asked.
I'll give our listeners a visual to leave them with. I was talking to a futurist a few years ago who hates the term think outside the box because he maintains you cannot think outside what you don't know. You can't bring that into the conversation because you don't know it. He says once you learn something, you could visit somebody else's box, learn something, then you bring it back into your box and your box gets bigger. But you can't think outside of the box that you know because it doesn't occur to you. The only thing that does occur to you is that you don't know it, or you don't know that there's something outside your own box. And I keep that visual with me because if there's something I don't know that, my container of tools and experiences and everything else, if it's not in there, I will go to somebody else who has totally different life experiences or careers or whatever, and I will ask them questions to seek to understand. And once they share the narrative or the knowledge with me, I take it back and I integrate it into my own box. So think of it from that perspective. Questions just allows you to make your box bigger and continue to fill it up and feel full and richer for the knowledge that you're bringing back.
Yeah, maybe the term that he would get comfortable with is what you just said: seek to understand, but seek to, to expand and grow my box by
Yeah.
understanding, some by trying to learn and understand something I don't currently understand, right? Seeking that outside expertise. I think that's that's a really interesting approach to that.
Yeah.
I
It's
love
cool.
it. Well, I love all these conversations because we could go on and on about these topics for for a long time, but we always like to try and keep these episodes short so that it gets people thinking, stimulated maybe to have their own conversations, and maybe coming back to us with what their observations were, what their takeaways were, or what questions bubbled up for them based on the topic that we put on the table. So how can they best do that, Donna, with us?
So I'm going to invite our listeners to fill our boxes up by letting us know how this resonated with them, how they've taken some of these topics and expanded on them to use them in their own context, in their own lives. Join our Facebook group, Inquiring Minds with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper. We would love to hear from you and hear about you as well, and
Yep.
anything that you would like us to discuss, because people do reach out and we do actually use them as topics for our show.
Yep.
And our YouTube video, of course, you're welcome to subscribe to that and comment, and we will answer you. We will engage with you. So we look forward to hearing from you as well.
Absolutely. And I would encourage our listeners and our audience to be sure to utilize these as an opportunity these episodes are shareable on all the platforms, on podcasts or our YouTube or Facebook. Be sure that expand this conversation in your world or with someone that that you think will benefit from these topics that we're sharing. We would love to expand the audience for this because that gives us a sense of growing our community and the opportunity to have bigger conversations with everyone. But it also becomes a great connection point for you to start a conversation with someone that you need to. And so this is an opportunity for you to expand that and utilize it as a tool and a resource to ask deeper questions, have better conversations, and really open up your inquiring mind as well. So we are so grateful that you joined us for another episode of Inquiring Minds. We'll be back again very soon with another new episode, another new topic. But until then, Donna, take care.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.